muted.
Yay.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. I was going to just say hello to everybody on YouTube. Oh, are we live? Yep, I see myself now over in the corner of my eye. We're going to have a great webinar tonight, live with CCO. This is the 8th time we've done this. It's a lot of fun. Jennifer's joining us again too, which is exciting. And Jennifer and I got to go to HealthCon this year, and we were roommates again. So we've done that a few times, and we make good roommates. Two different personalities. She's much more energetic than I am, I think. Sometimes she likes to get up early in the morning, and I have to tell her to remind me to get up when I absolutely have no more time, you know.
And I quietly sneak out of the room. Yep.
She does. She is like, I won't even know she's gone. And she's like, oh, I went downstairs and studied for 2 hours. What? You know. Anyway, so we really had a good time. And one of the things that was unique this year was a vendor that helped with resumes. We get a lot of questions about resumes all the time. We have ever since I've been with CCO. And in the past, I would, you know, give some time to kind of help people. But even though I know how to do it, and I've even taught people how to do it at the college and stuff, and listen to other people give feedback. And so it's not something that I do. I want to say we don't, you know, there's people that get paid to help you do resumes out there, and they're really, really good. They do it full time. But what I do know that I can share with you quickly about resumes, and let me just change this slide because this is our first topic, resume creation for a coder, is that if you've ever worked or tried to get a job with a government, meaning like state government, city government, federal government, they have a point system that they use. And those points are based off keywords. And those keywords have to have so many points to be able to qualify for an interview, or you just get put in file 13. And I think more and more, especially with remote jobs being much higher than you know, the availability compared to what we had in the past, then they really do kind of use a point system as well. And I've heard some of them say they do use a point system. So I want to tell you a little bit about that. And I just happened to have gotten an email today for someone looking for risk adjustment coder. I get these all the time, and I usually just share them on CCO. But I was going to show you the information that I got in the email, and then we can talk about key or words that would be point words. And then Jennifer and I want to share with you the company that we saw at HealthCon in the vendors, and maybe you want to reach out to them. So did you want to say anything about that, Jennifer, about what we talked about?
Well, I know that I'm sure it's similar to point, and I'm sure it's the exact same thing, but always when you're looking for that resume, they have their keywords. So that's the information you need, just like our medical records, you need to extract that out of there and try and work that in somehow, some of those keywords, those key phrases. You know, a lot of times, especially when you talked about the federal government, they like feed them, you know, it's got like some computer that's scanning them, and they're looking for all those keywords. And so those are very, very essential when you're trying to build your resume up. So
my husband worked for TxDOT for a long time, which is the Department of Transportation. If you've seen the whatever state you were in, they have a DOT. And so like when we lived in Missouri, it was MoDOT, and then in Texas it's TxDOT, TxDOT, and they have a what they called a point system. And I'm sure all, like she said, keywords, all they have probably their own verbiage, but it's that's what gets you in the door nowadays. And you could be completely qualified, but if your resume doesn't have that right verbiage in it, then again, you're not going to get that interview. One of the things is to make sure that you get more than one interview, right? Be expecting that it could take more.
Well, and another of those, I recently applied for a job, and I was like, and it comes out as through Indeed going your match, and I read the description, I was like, wow, that sounds perfect. And so I applied for it, and I had every single thing that they asked for. Everyone. I had the MBA, I had I had this, I'm a CPCI, I had this instruction, I've worked with presentations, I've done, worked with education. So everything they asked for I had, and I thought, oh wow, this is perfect. And I submitted it, and it came back saying, thank you. And then 5 minutes later, it came back saying sorry. And unfortunately, you hit that step that you can't even talk to a person. You can't even go, but wait, what's wrong? And I think it's because I asked for too much money. But
right.
But you don't know what the job goes for, so maybe I'll submit it again and go $5,000 less, and then just keep submitting again.
That is another key to talk about. We could tell you about also the interview process, I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
as well. But they're always going to ask you if you put in an application with a resume, they're going to ask you, what amount of money you're asking for. As a general rule, unless you have something you need, a minimum or something like that, you can also put on there to find out, because it's a catch-22. You don't know. If you say something, it could be $10,000 less than what they want to offer, or it could be $10,000 more than they want to offer, right? And they're not going to think twice about making an offer for you. But then again, on a resume, there's really no place to put it. And on an application, you can say applicable code or applicable salary range or something, and then they tell you in interviews to say, well, I'm sure whatever you're offering will be fine, and because based on my skill set. It's like, I'm sure I'm sure whatever you're offering will be based on my skill set, and I look forward to talking about that with you. It's like, so you're evading the question, but reminding them that you have a really high skill set, and and then you can find out, well, we were going to offer $50,000, and you're like, yeah, that's $10,000 more than I thought I'd get, or it's, oh, that's $10,000 less, but that gives you an idea of what. I'm going to go ahead and show you this next slide, because it is the question that came in. Do we have any questions or any comments that came in?
No.
I'm doing YouTube, and she's doing Facebook. So I know we got people on both. I'm just looking at all the names that are on here. Don't think I'm going to try to say any of the names, because if I do,
but we got Whitney.
Oh, good, Whitney. She's on Facebook. I might have to put my readers on to see do you guys like my readers? I love them. They're dirty, actually. So let's look at what it might. This one just happened to come in from an email, and it was based on a LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, I would go ahead and get on LinkedIn. Start building up. You can only add so many people to your network a day, or invite people to your network in a day. But you can also go into somebody else's LinkedIn, like mine, and add me, and then it'll give a whole list of people that we might have in common, or that for careers and stuff. I've got a lot of recruiters, so I get recruiting stuff continually. And I do that because I want to be on top of what's out there for my students, right? And I'm sure you're thinking the same thing too, Jennifer, because if we don't know what the going wages for a particular area, or if somebody asks us, are they hiring right now for, or even those keywords and stuff, if we don't pay attention to that, we're not going to know. And my background is different than Jennifer's. We've said many a times how she has the really strong billing background, and I have a really strong diagnosis background and ICD background because I did risk adjustment. And so that makes a difference. I can tell you keywords for those type of jobs that are going to resonate, and then Jennifer's going to be able to tell you for billing what they're going to want to see in a resume. We'll do that.
So after you read this, I'll have a question. So
okay. So I don't have to. I was just seeing if I could clean my readers enough. So this came out from Code Busters. Obviously, Vincent, and I'm not going to try to say his. Is it Kobayashi? You think? I don't know who Vincent is. Kobayashi.
Kobayashi.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. See, I don't get out much. So
and Star Trek. Come on, Kobayashi Maru. You've never heard of that?
No. Now that makes sense. Oh, good. Oh, that's something you may not know. Jennifer is an uber Star Trek fan. I'm a huge fan, but I'm not an uber fan. And if you ever get to meet us, we can tell you what the difference between being a huge fan and an uber fan is. Star Wars too. Okay, so Code Busters, I've heard of them. I don't know them really well. I can't tell you anybody that I know of right now that's working for them, but I know that they are a well-known company. So this came in as an email, and I know it was on LinkedIn. They're wanting HCC coders, and notice very quickly, upcoming coding season. Now, what you may or may not know about risk adjustment, especially in the past, not as much now, because not only does CMS do risk adjustment, they have 3 pulls a year, but HHS, all the for Medicaid and commercial insurances, they pull not retrospectively but current, and they do complete captures. So they work more often than risk adjustment coders. So the season that they're pulling for is November to January, and that's pretty spot on. It's the end of the year. They got the last minute pull to get everything captured. So you'll see a lot of people hire for that. You should know that. Now, that's not necessarily just knowing that is good for HCC or risk adjustment coding. Now, the other thing is it's not called HCC coders. It's called risk adjustment coders. But this person went in with the lay terminology. That is interesting. So, because so many people search on HCC, and it's actually risk adjustment. But he is a recruiter trying to capture somebody. So his verbiage is a little different. Pay rate is $25 an hour as a W-2 employee of Code Busters. So do you know what a W-2 employee is? Because some people are contractors and some people aren't. So are you a W-2 or are you is it a W-4? Is that the other one? Or they just say W-9? Okay.
W-9.
So that's what you need to know. Okay. Or they may say that, we'll have they may throw out the verbiage of a 1099. So that means you're a contractor. And that means you pay all your taxes and take out everything for taxes. Whereas W-2, you're actually an employee of theirs. They're going to take out the taxes and things. Am I getting that right? Or am I switching up?
Yep. Okay. No, that's right. Yep.
Pay rate, $25 an hour is a pretty average. $19 to $25 an hour is 19 being more of a starting up type thing. But you notice they're only going to hire you from November to January. Okay. So that's the code pool. In other words, they'll pay you more, but they want you to work really hard just for those few months. So we are looking for a commitment of at least 20 hours a week. And this is also very common, that a minimum of 20 hours a week, because they know they'll get a lot of people that have other jobs, right? And that they just want a little more they wanted extra income at the end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
Christmas time, things like that. So they're saying, you got to give us at least 20 hours. And the closer you get to January, a lot of times they'll pay you more than 40 if you're willing to work it. They pay overtime. Now, of course, they're not saying this here, but a lot of times they will. But they want you to at least give them, commit to 20. Requirements. Now, I thought this was interesting because they said your certification and 2 years experience doing HCC coding or risk adjustment. Talk about keywords. Having HCC on your resume is good, but having risk adjustment is even better. Okay. I would have CMS on my resume, and I would have HHS on my resume. Health and Human Services, Centers of Medicare and Medicaid, and risk adjustment, though, is actually what it's called, and then having the HCC. Then it says, you can work remote from home. You need to know that. So with remote, some of the key things that you need to have, you need to have that if you have worked remote before, that's going to be a point for you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a learning curve. Flexible schedule so you can work when you want. That's why if they can get at least 20 hours out of you, you can work 40 hours a week for somebody else and then pick up these 20 hours on the weekend very easily. So they're saying, as long as you give us 20 hours, we don't care if you put in a couple hours, during the week, and then the rest of during the weekend. If you work at midnight, they don't care. It's not 9 to 5. Okay. So those are key things that you would put. Now, I also saw another ad for Code Busters on there. I think it was Code Busters. It was different than this. It was risk adjustment, but they were hiring full-time 8 to 5 remote. Okay.
Yeah.
And they wanted, they didn't put a pay scale on there, but they required that you have an AHEMA certification. AHEMA doesn't have a risk adjustment certification, but this was a risk adjustment job. They said if you have an AAPC credential, they wanted you to take a physiology course, a test. So in other words, they wanted to know if you
Yeah.
understood the disease process. I thought that was really interesting. I'd never seen that before. So these are key things that you need to let people know, that you have taken anatomy and physiology before in your training.
Mm-hmm.
If you have more than one credential with an organization or any other, or all the organizations that you're a part of, then you need to have those on there. Those are going to be key point words.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you can think
So
of to say about this one?
well, just if you want to hit real quick, somebody had the question of what is HCC coding. So just it's your quick
It's
lowdown about HCC coding.
So it's hierarchical coding. The H stands for hierarchical. Is it category or condition coding? I can't remember.
I thought it was category.
Yeah, I think it's
I
category
don't
too,
do it, so
because
that's why I don't recall, but I
it's
think it's
divided
category.
up.
Yeah.
Because they're divided up into categories, meaning,
Mm-hmm.
is this a cardiovascular disease? Is this a pulmonary disease? Those are categories. And then they have a code that go, so it's not coding, it's code. So it's hierarchical category coda but people who are in risk adjustment don't use the term HCC. They say risk adjustment. So you've got to have risk adjustment on your resume.
I guess that's the tough point there, is you'll still see a lot of ads come out saying knowledge of ICD-9. Well, am I really going to put that on my resume? Because does it show I used to know ICD-9, but they should know now it's ICD-10. And so, it's kind of that, but they just never change these ads. I don't know why. I mean, it's been around for 4 years now, and they still say ICD-9. So
yeah, risk adjustment would have still been coding last year in ICD-9, retrospectively, probably. But 2019, they probably are not, unless they have some type of project that is specific to ICD-9. And there are things now, not in risk adjustment, but there are people that don't have to use 10. However, that is very few. It's like auto insurance, right? And I think there's one more.
No, auto's even now on 10, I think.
Are they on 10? Okay, so even they switched over. I
We
don't know
submit ours with
anybody
10, so yeah.
I don't know anybody that uses 9 anymore. However, if
Yeah.
you state in your resume that you can do ICD-9 or ICD-10, what do you think that tells them? That tells them that you've been doing this long enough that you have some years under your belt because you were coding in 9, right? Or you were educated in 9 and then converted to 10. So that tells a story, a hidden story that you don't even realize you're saying. So
Yep.
I would put it on my resume. If you coded in 9, or if you were trained in 9 and then went to 10, having ICD-9 and ICD-10 mentioned on your resume can only help you, not hurt you. Now, for the
include that in
ads,
one of your skills. Yeah.
I would say that because you went through the whole process of changing code sets, so that tells them that you're trainable. Think outside the box. Well, Jennifer kind of nailed it. Sometimes HR departments recycle the same ad over and over again, and they're not trained. They don't even know what ICD-9 and ICD-10 is. They just give you. They say, "Hey, you got approved to hire 2 medical coders for the department." Okay, great. So they go and they pull the ad and they place it. They don't let the department look at it most of the time. And the department isn't probably going to look and see it being advertised. It used to be in the paper, and now it's online, probably more. So yeah, that would be good. Let's see. Ms. Video Time says the only thing they're looking for is experience. How can you start by having experience? Well, there's several ways to get experience, but some of the things that are going to be key words are using the word experience on your resume. And you can say, I'm experienced in ICD-10. I'm experienced in, and it could be, I have experience, maybe you took a special CEU, maybe you took special training, all right? So the key word is experience, not what it's pertaining to. So you get a point for the word experience. Okay, now your resume is going to say, background experience. Okay, boom. But they know that word, you get 1, right? But then you need to reiterate experience in ICD-10, experience in, and if you take a CEU class, you get to count that as extra training experience. Okay, now it's not the same as working in the trenches and stuff. Okay, because you do practice cases, and that may be enough to get you into the door so that you can say, well, these are the additional trainings I took, or I shadowed, a particular coder, or I did an internship with da 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 da. So we've done some videos on how to get experience. Let's see. Nancy Nurse says, I take my CPC exam in 2 weeks. I'm an LPN. Okay, that's brilliant. That's really, really good. What other certifications do you recommend? I'm interested in home health coding certifications. How do you get experience when you're new? Okay, so that's a whole mouthful. First of all, the fact that you're an LPN gets your foot in the door in coding in most cases. Home health has a certification. It is not through AHIMA or the AAPC. There's a couple other organizations that you can get certified, but the whole testing process and everything is the same. And you're an LPN and not an RN, so you can't do OASISs for home health. But the reason they like to hire LPNs and RNs are going to be case managers, but LPNs is that if something happens and they get busy and they need you to go out and give a shot or give some insulin or something, you can do that. So you're dually certified. Home health is really a good area for you to get into. But unless you're an RN, you don't fill out the OASIS, but you could be the one to take the information from the OASIS and turn it into a document that can be submitted for the orders for the provider to sign off on, and then you could be doing the coding with that. So I would say that's good. And then how do you get that experience if you're new? Well, being a nurse already allows you to offer your services a little bit in saying that, you could do more than one thing in the office for them as a trade. Let me volunteer to work 1 day a week as a nurse for you, and in exchange, let me intern with your coder. You might do something like that. It's like, oh, okay. Any ideas, Jennifer? Can you think of something that?
Well, just you had said it originally that they already have experience with the disease process. They
Oh,
already
yeah.
know majority of extracting information from a medical record, things like that. Being able to read the medical record and understand what it means, being able to understand that that diagnosis goes with that medication, or or that other way around, that medication goes with that diagnosis.
Right.
That use that extracting medical record information or something like that might
Absolutely.
be words like that might be a little bit better to put on
And
your resume. So, yeah.
you're familiar with EMRs and EHRs, and I'd use the term EMR and EHR because you don't know which one. I mean, maybe it picks up both in the
Yeah.
point system, because some people call it one thing and some people call it another. But they're synonymous, like an LPN and an LVN. It depends on what region you're in. I agree. You're a document specialist, just because of your training. So I would put that in there. Document specialty, due to your clinical background and clinical training. And abstraction is definitely a word. And,
I had some questions here too. Can't get to all of them though. Similar is if you have another professional credential that's in the medical field, such as an RN, can you add that? I'm like,
oh yeah,
it's definitely something you want to add.
anytime you have a degree,
other...
if you're putting your credentials in order, or your licensures, it behind your name. So notice that Vincent here put CEO, and which I made this, I centered it so it would have been his name was CEO, and stuff. But any degrees that you have, licensures, would go before certifications. So if you're an RN and a CPC, you'd say your name, RN, comma, CPC, right? You want to add all of that, and how you need to use the keywords of the things that cross-reference for both of those. Definitely don't leave anything out. Here's one for medical coding mom. How many providers should I feel comfortable coding for? It seems like they just add more to our plate as we get new providers and expect us to just adjust our workload. Really? Yeah,
yes.
absolutely they do.
I'm sorry, they're wanting to know exactly how many.
I mean,
I'm sorry, they wanted to know what?
Jennifer's probably a pretty good candidate for this because she's an in the trenches coder too. And whereas with risk adjustment, we did hundreds because it's a different type of coding. So for Jennifer, she said, how many providers should I feel comfortable coding for?
Well, that's always a huge question, and it depends. I know everybody hates that answer. They just want, tell me. It depends on what kind of facility or doctor it is, for one. I mean, a family practice might be a little bit different than a neurologist, something that's more specific. Or yeah.
Specialty group.
And what else does your job entail? Is it only coding? So if you're doing solely coding, the typical, and you're not doing your reimbursements afterwards, you're not entering payments, anything like that. One session I attended, not this HealthCon, the last one, he suggested there was a person in there who owns his billing company and he's really successful and stuff. He suggested 3/4 employee per provider. So if you have 10 providers, you have at least 7 coders. So,
Wow. Okay.
you know, and that's really interesting because my facility, we have 12 and we have 2 coders. So,
Do they do more than
so, you
coding
know,
though?
those 2 coders, one of them, PK, is a solely coder. She does all of our
Okay.
surgeries, all the surgeries, and about 4 of the providers. But she doesn't do the data entry. Somebody else does all the demographics and all that kind of insurance
Right.
information, all that. She only codes. And
Okay.
our coding is information. Our coding is almost data entry. You're taking the information off of the encounter form and you're entering it, but you still
Okay.
got to know the diagnosis and modifiers and all that kind of stuff. So it
Right.
just kind of depends on what they consider coding. Are you extracting the medical record information?
Mm-hmm.
Then you may not be able to do as much as, you know, what they're
Right. Are
suggesting.
you
If
having to
you're
do CDI
retrospective
work?
coding or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Or you're an auditor.
So
So that's
it's a
pretty cool.
good benchmark.
3/4.
Yeah.
3/4. And now there is a point too where some employees will keep adding until you can't keep up with demand anymore. And it's like, well, so and so code's pretty good, so let's just give them more, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like you don't want to
Yep.
complain because, well, then they'll just can me and get somebody else, right? You know, so there is a catch-22 there. But you have to have good communication and let them know, hey, don't give me any more. And, you know, or we just got a new provider and I I don't understand their verbiage. Everything is a little bit different. There's a learning
Mm-hmm.
curve. And then if you're doing interventional radiology or spinal surgery, oh my gosh, versus,
Yeah.
you know, a pediatrician, a podiatrist, and, you know, I don't want to say smaller specialties, but specialties that don't have
Very
the
specific specialty.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they have just a set amount of, you know, codes that you're going to see commonly again and again and again. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like with interventional radiology, I mean, you know, or spine. Oh, do you like that face? Ugh. but if that's all, if you do that a lot, it's still repetitious. It's just a lot of codes, you know. So again, multi-specialty, I think that would burden you a little bit more. Ooh, this person, which I don't know, it says SC SCC undergrad. Oh, SCC undergrad? Okay, I think it's what it is. Can a background in cancer registry help me get a job as a medical coder? Absolutely. They are 2 different types of code sets. Uh, there are some things that are very, very similar, and then there's other things that are extremely different. I had wanted to get into tumor registry for a while because I just thought it was fascinating. And so I did look into it. I did a little bit of study and stuff, and uh, but and I could navigate the verbiage and the talk and stuff like that. But there was again that learning curve. There was a lot of stuff I didn't know, but I understood everything that they were talking about. Whereas, and if you don't know what tumor registry is, it's a specific code set that only does cancer, and it's talking about the stages, and there's all kinds of information when you look at the code itself that tells you things like, is it the upper half of the body, the lower half of the body, how many areas of cancer have cancer, there's benchmarks, there's you know, markers, and stuff, and this is all with letters and numbers. It's a code, and then that's kept for statistics. And then so it's very similar to what we do, except for a tumor registry doesn't have anything to do with reimbursement, whereas what we do, it's statistics first, but it's also
Yeah.
reimbursement, you know, and we have more than one code set and they have one. So absolutely, it would be beneficial to be able to do that, especially if you have a cancer center at the facility that you're going to work at. It just, like being a clinician already, it just means that you have a background and you're used to abstracting already, and and stuff, reading documentation.
Marissa asks if I've been a claim processor for 8 years. Does that help? Yes.
Yeah.
Because you know the entire process. We code, but then you know everything else. So being able to label that information that
Okay, I don't know if I froze or she froze.
You have
I'm still here, but my thing is freezing. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. Are you still there?
Yep.
She is?
She froze. So you can
okay, I didn't know if it was me or her. Okay, let's just, since
it was me.
Okay.
I lost my internet.
Because it's usually me. I'm like, oh, I'll undo my camera. Let me just show them this website. It was projectresume.net. We met them at HealthCon. They were one of the vendors. They're willing also to go and talk to local chapters. So maybe they would be a great resource for if you want to let your local chapters know. And let's see, I'm looking. Okay, just real quick, Nancy, your question was, what's a good certification to get after your CPC? We did a CCO live on that. That was like one of the original ones. So go back and look. Yeah, we've already got some videos on that. I didn't want you to think that I didn't see your comment. So this is the website. Great ladies that were there. They answered some of the questions, but what I thought that was unique, where I've never seen this before, they specifically work for coders, you know, so they're going to know those keywords. This is just amazing. So not only do they help you with your resumes, but professional development and career advancement. Now, we do not know what they charge or the steps and the processes that they use. We're just giving you the information that we were given. We talked to them a little bit. Jennifer may remember some highlights. If you want to have them help you with the resume, that's again what we were talking about with them. Maybe there's continuing education. They have some CEUs on demand. Now, CCO has great CEUs. I do not know or can validate or vet anything that they do with their CEUs, but you know, they're probably great. They have a career blog, which I would get on that if you're looking. Also, educators, they have some other things. They're not really in competition with us as far as educators. They offer a specific skill set. And when I say that, Jennifer, doesn't that make you think of, oh, what's his name when he gets on the phone and he says, I have a specific skill set. You know who I'm talking about? I don't even know what that movie was, Kidnapped or something like that. Taken.
Oh, yes, Taken.
When I was
did
we
we watch
specific kills.
Did we watch it?
No, I don't think that was on there.
Oh, okay. I remember watching it.
Yeah, and other things that we have in common. We're movie buffs, you know, we kind of like the same kind of movie. Not really into chick flicks too much, you know, but they have contact recruiters, and they said, you know, they'll speak at your local chapter. So again, in vetting this organization, what we can tell you is that we met them at conference. They sounded like excellent service, that a big need. It's one thing to have a resume company help you or someone help you with a resume. It is quite another to have one that is for coders. So
yes, yeah, to know all those keywords and exactly what, you know, most of these questions I have over here, you know, do you think it's, Gina asked, do you think it's best to only list your skills and expertise based on the job you're applying for now? Well, they'd be able to pull information from your last job that sounds similar to what you're doing, and so things like that. Whitney asked, what if we don't have the required experience, but if you have the certifications? So they would be able to, what experience do you have? You have customer service experience. You used to work a reception desk at a school or something. I mean, they'd be able to pull that necessary information that you deal well with customers, you know how to handle multiple duties at one time, whatever they call that. I know how to juggle,
Yeah.
to be able to put those words into a resume that somebody's going to go, oh, wow, this person sounds exceptional. I understand that, I've got this person over here that has 2 years of experience and a credential, but I've got this person over here with 2 credentials, and they sound awesome. They sound like I want to get to know them. That's kind of the thing you're looking for, is somebody to go, I like this person already, and I haven't even met him yet.
Now, one of the things, look at the first question on their FAQs. I'm just starting out at coding and I don't have any coding experience. Can you help me with my resume? There you go. We get that question all the time, don't we, Jennifer? It's that catch-22.
I'm involved in my chapter, and even in my chapter, I hear it all the time. So everybody out there has that question. I don't have any experience. How do I get the job? You have to, unfortunately, sell yourself to that job, but being able to pull up what they're looking for. And I guess that may be a little bit difficult sometimes too. If you've never worked in the field, you may not know everything that they're talking about in this resume or in this ad. You go, well, what is that exactly? Do I want to do that? Whereas this company, or if you could ask your friend who's already in the field, hey, what does this mean? Or you could, they would be able to pull this information to make it look like you know what you're talking about.
Well, but even your friend, if they haven't created a resume or they've been at that job for 10 years, they may not have the key, they may be able to answer the questions about what these words mean and stuff, but they may not have had that connection to tell you, I don't know exactly what they're looking for. I haven't had to make a resume in a long time. And these guys would do that. Or you want to check with HR. Okay. Now keep in mind, HR is going to only be able to tell you what they are told by the department. And sometimes there's a disconnect there, thus the ads that aren't up to date. But if you know somebody, the best thing you could possibly do for yourself is, if you want to work at a particular doctor's office or a particular facility, is you meet or get to know somebody that works in that office. And it doesn't matter if it's a receptionist, it doesn't matter if it's the janitor. You got to know somebody, because that networking, knowing somebody, will get you in the door faster than anything else. Go to your local meetings and they say, oh yeah, I remember that person. She's new, has a bubbly personality, is eager to learn. I'd give her a try. Well, she doesn't really have the experience that we're looking for. Well, yeah, but you've already gone through so many interviews and those people haven't panned out.
But they can also say, yeah, but you know what? They're at every single meeting. And they want to learn. They were really interested in that topic that we did about cardiology or, whatever. But if that also shows a willingness to learn, I have to say something here. I don't know how many of these people that we have listening are AAPC members and part of their chapter. But we have in our chapter, I'm one of the officers, so I get records. We have 90 members in our chapter, which is rather small, because to hear other people, they got like 700. So we're rather small. We are lucky to get 10% at our meetings, and that includes the 5 officers. So we get new people, and we get some of the same people, but I don't understand why people don't attend meetings. It's
Right.
kind of, I know schedules don't work, and I understand all those things, but there's no better way to get continued education and for networking. And maybe people love their job and they don't ever want to leave and they don't need anything from AAPC, and that's possible too.
Yeah.
But just the fun, after all. I mean, Alicia, how many meetings have you been to? I mean, they're just fun. In the last month, how many have you been to?
Yeah, I can tell you a really exciting one, and gosh, I wish they were 2 hours away, or I join them. Is the because I can't ever seem to make the closest one to me is an hour away anyway. But this one down in Seguin, it's the new Bronzefeld. My word, they're hopping. Now they've been together for a little while, but they're growing all of a sudden. They've got some really vital, energetic people in there, and their meetings are just, they're pulling like 30 people. Now,
That's good. Yeah.
is it because I was there and speaking? I don't know. No,
Of course.
she was saying that, they're getting their chapter is really, really growing, and that is exciting to see. And you had a couple people stand up. They always say, is your company hiring? Two different people stood up, and they were hiring jobs. One of them had remote and was willing to take new people. I was like, wow, and I'm sorry I didn't get her more information about her name and stuff, but that is networking. You can't do it without. I am looking here, and it says Leanna Gagliano. She said, they helped me with my resume. These guys, I guess, they're very good. And she said, I have a background as a senior business analyst, and they were able to make my background relatable to the field, decent price, and quick turnaround. Okay, that's
Very
a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and notice here it says we even had a resume order from someone who was working as a taxidermist. No work history is far removed from coding if you have an expert to write your resume accordingly. And just as Jennifer said, you don't realize that there's skill sets, especially soft skills, that a company may be looking at that is still applicable, but you can't bring that forward if all you know is coding, right? Or yeah, you look at my background, my word, it's pretty diverse, but the main theme of it was always, predominantly for a medical field. However, I was a real estate agent for 8 years. I did property management for resort system for 8 years and managed 3 different offers. So yeah, I can pull that stuff, but then I've been trained to do resumes. But even if I'm sure that if I told them my background, that I bet they'd make me look, but shoot, I might be the president of the AAPC or AHIMA. So it does behoove you to have those keywords and stuff like that. I was going to say the president of the United States.
Whitney loves her chapter meetings. So
yeah, it really makes difference. Okay, so Bethesda was that question that you did, is becoming a medical biller beneficial to landing a job as a medical coder? Absolutely. Let's see.
That's Bethesda, is in Bethesda, Maryland.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right here.
Yeah.
That's where my husband has to go when the military sends him someplace. Is Bethesda.
She may pronounce her name a little bit different because it's Bethzaida.
Ah, Bethesda. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Bethesda. Yeah, Bethesda.
Yeah.
Vasquez. So that, yeah, you're not pronouncing those with the Spanish accent, verb pronunciation of those letters.
And I'm sorry, I'm horrible at Spanish. That's why I took German and French. I don't.
And I took Spanish and sign language. I'd much rather be doing sign language. Let's see. Here's a good one. I'm looking for a remote coder job. I've been trying past few years, but never got a response from anyone. I have CPC and currently working as a cardiac cath lab coder 15 years. Okay, if you're not getting a response, your resume is not good. With that, what you're saying right there, I would look at these guys then.
And you're looking for a remote cardiology, maybe?
Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah.
Get that. okay, one thing you don't know is you need to have more than one resume, or you need to have one
Yes.
resume. You have two resumes, one that you can adapt, that is your template, your core resume, that another one, copy and paste that into your document, Word document or whatever. And then you go in and say, I want a job at this facility. Then you go find everything else that you can find about that position and that facility, and you start pulling that information into this one. And then you label that resume, like 2019, Bethesda Hospital, boom, and then you come up and you say, okay, there's a remote risk adjustment job. You take your core resume, that's for everything, and you look at it, it's like, will that work? No, I want to change it. So you copy and paste that, resume 2019 risk adjustment, clusters, and then you look, so you send those out individually, but yeah, if you've got all that background, then I'd look and see something's not clicking for you.
And then look at Baylor
resume.
in Texas.
Baylor, Scott and White.
Yeah, look. Yeah, they do. That's where my girlfriend used to remote cardiology code for. So,
Baylor, Baylor, Scott and White is very close to us, and most of the clinics are Baylor, Scott and White here where we're at, but across Texas, Baylor, Scott and White, Baylor University.
It's huge.
But
yeah.
We also have Baylor, Scott and White. We have St. Luke's, and we have St. David's, and we have there is a Seton Hospital is got and that's a big network too. So
yeah, Seton is.
Oh,
Yeah, they're around
by
here.
Betsy.
Oh,
She was in my class in New York, right? Isn't that right, Betsy? I know her name. So that's good.
I was going to say something, but now I don't remember.
Somebody else just sent me an email about our chat tonight about resume writing.
Yeah, I actually do have, I think, about 3 resumes out there, so that on my computer, that I draw from and say, oh, well, this is for education more. I have one more for education, one for a general, one for, I do keep several, and you do have to update them regularly. Did you speak at your local chapter meeting about something? Add it on there. Did you help with some other volunteer organization? Add it on there. You got to remember those little things actually help. So,
right, and find it, even if it is somebody that that's working, like I said, at that hospital, at that facility. Now, if it's remote, it's a little bit harder, but if you can even go out, like Optum is a big one. And so since I've worked for them, even though it's been a while now, there's still a network of people that you can go find somebody, even online, that's worked for Optum, maybe ask them a few questions about, what did you do to get your foot in the door, et cetera, that.
So Terry has a question. How many pages should your resume be? Mine is actually 2, because you can either make the font that small and put it all on one, or I have mine on 2. But I probably wouldn't go more than that. And I've even included my references on mine, all my education, not all my jobs, because you only need to go back so far, and some of them are not even relevant, so I just don't even include them. Waitressing during college, I don't put on there, but I put any medical related career I've had on there. So
you can,
but I wouldn't go more than 2. But
for professionals, 2 is acceptable, but for most things, 1 is enough to get you in. They tell you never to go more than never go more than 2, but one, a lot of times they'll put references on a second page, or you can put on there references upon request, because references are probably going to be put on the application. Are you sending a resume with an application? So some of that information can be redundant. The resume is what gets you, it is supposed to give you information that isn't going to be on an application.
And what do they say? 9 seconds for them to look at. That's how quickly they're going to look at a first resume. So that's why one of these companies, or working with somebody who has read a lot of resumes, maybe you have a friend in the HR department or something that can give you some good keys, or your parents used to do it or something. But your resume's in their hand for about 9 seconds. So they want to see that information jump out.
I thought of something too that's probably pertinent that has changed, is that if you're giving them an electronic resume, 2 pages is nothing, because it's a file and they're scrolling.
Know. Yeah.
Versus a paper resume, because I was just about to say, and when you send your resume in, you need to use good quality paper. And then I thought, wait a minute. No, you don't. We used to tell people that, but you don't have to do that anymore because you're sending it electronically. So 2 pages, nothing anymore.
Alicia, I still have my good resume paper.
I know.
I think it's.
I still have mine, but I
18 years old.
I still cream heavy stock paper. They used to tell you back in the day that if you had a different color, now I'm not saying hot pink, but like a pale yellow or ivory stock, resume paper that's textured, or even like a pale blue will stand out, because anything that will make you stand out in a person's mind when they have a stack of resumes like this, right? But with it being electronic, that's not an issue anymore. So it's more about, what do they see at the very, very beginning? And if you put your name and all your credentials, bam, 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 that's what grabs their interest and stuff. This is probably the stuff that that company would be able to help you with, because again, everything is changed. It's all electronic nowadays versus
I think the other thing I have on mine is I have Jennifer Sanders, blah blah blah, CPC, CPB, CPMA. I have all my credentials, but then on my second page, after all my employment, I have split out under certifications what every one of those mean, because some people may not know what a CPMA is. So I put Certified Professional Medical Auditor, CPPM, Certified Professional Physician Practice Manager, so I don't even forget what they are. So, so I have it all spelled out, because a lot of time people might know what sometimes they don't even know what a CPC is. So it depends on who's
they're
reading.
Used to getting a HEMA credentials too, they may not know other credentials. And then again, maybe it's an HEMA credential and they mostly know CPC. So that could be pertinent.
There's some of the other organizations, AMBA, MMI, they have their own certifications as well. So they may not even know what they stand for. So, yeah,
that's good. Could you please give me what good certification I need to get for a coder? We've done a video on that that you can get off on Medical Coding Cert on the YouTube. But Justin, I would say your primary is either going to be a HEMA CIC, okay, or the AAPC's CRC, or no, excuse me, CPC. Those are the 2 most well-known in the nation credentials. Okay.
Is it a HEMA CIC?
Now, if you're going to be physician,
CIC is a HEMA? Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, it's not. It is not. Inpatient producer for the AAPC. My word. What, was it getting late?
CCS, CCA, CCSP, whatever. Yeah.
It's CCS. I didn't even realize I was saying CIC.
CIC is if you want to do inpatient coding. So
now the CCSP is the physician outpatient a HEMA credential, or is that payer? I can't remember, but they've got one. Best advice we could give you is go to the HEMA website, ahema.org. Look at their credentials. Anything that's on there is going to be good, but the CCS is their most recognized. And with the AAPC, the most recognized will be the CPC. Okay. Just a second. Somebody's calling me. I have to tell them, don't call me. Somebody keeps calling me Oklahoma. So
yes, you're right.
try that.
CCS, Whitney said.
Thank you. And Camille and Betsy both said CCS. I could just see them all sitting there screaming, it's the CCS. It's the CCS. I think I get that a lot. And when I do lectures, I have people, I'm sure, that tell me, they're saying, no, you say it like this, Alicia. You say it like this. You put the accent in the wrong place.
I have to get an HEMA credential. I'm still waiting to sit for my other 2 from AAPC this year, but now I have to get an HEMA. Our school is KHIM certified, so I have to have an HEMA certification.
Tamara, she makes a good question, or posts a good question. How far back should you go for years of experience? Well, there is some rules of thumb for that, and they usually don't say necessarily years of experience. Go back at least 3 to 4 jobs if they are within the past 10 to 20 years. Okay, so some people will say they want you to show that you've been at a job a long time. Okay, but others will say, well, you want to show your skill set, right? So if I'm going to get a manager's job or supervisor's job, then definitely I want my job that stated I was a property manager for and was the supervisor for 3 district offices. I want that in there somewhere. It may not have anything to do with the medical field, but it tells you that I've supervised people, right? So again, I want that in. But do you want to know how far back that was? That was over 20 years ago. Is that applicable? Well, there's certain skill sets that never that will be good, like managing people. Supervision. You'll always want to. If you were a supervisor of a crew at Wendy's when you were 18 years old, yeah, you want that on there. So you want to.
Well, and you got to remember, some people might have only had one job for 20 years or 15 years. Do you want to put the job when you had when you were in high school then or something, if you've only been working at this one employer for 15 years, but you're also showing how dedicated and loyal an employee you are? Maybe now you have to move to another city, so you don't want to commute or something like that.
That's right.
But if you have bad luck at each of your jobs, you just kind of don't do well, you're going to have to add more. Now, typically, most resumes and most job applications now are all online. You're doing everything online. You're taking everything off your resume and you're putting it in their fields. And they usually ask for 3 employers, your past 3 employers. So.
And Janet makes a point. She said 10 years, and that's probably, it wouldn't go back farther than that unless there was something that was really pertinent. But you have to remember, when you're usually on a application, it lists things that skills that are applicable, and you could put those skills in there, and then if they can't find what you did in that job, you can reconnect that in the interview. Like I said, use the point system.
Oh, since we're talking about companies, there is actually ReadyMed. They're in all of the AAPC magazines. They are a company that you go, like Indeed or wherever, you put your application, you put your resume out there, and they match you, or people looking for people to come work for them. They can look through all these resumes and pick out somebody, and that's all medical related as well. So it's not like Indeed where you've got everybody on there from every job under the sun. They are a similar type of service. You just put your resume out, but it's all medical field related. So
That's a really good point. You know, we are into our hour. I was just looking up, let's see, CC under graduate. If it was the last question I saw by you was on the tumor registry, and we did answer that. This recording will be up, guys, in the on YouTube, so you can always go back and reference anything that we said and stuff. Also, feel free to go and look at cco.us. We have a place where you can go ask questions, and we've showed you that in previous.
Which I know Whitney had 2 other questions that I didn't get to. They were actually coding related questions, but she knows where to put them on the.
That's right. She is definitely a fangirl. Yeah, we appreciate Whitney on all of her. She's on a lot of our recordings.
She has a diamond next to her name. She's a top fan.
Really, on the Facebook? Okay,
on Facebook,
YouTube doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, you guys, thanks for joining us. We'll be back here next Wednesday, and I'm not sure what we'll talk about it, but if there's something specific you want us to talk about, send it out in the requests. Go to cco.us and do that, request the topic. We've showed you several times how to do that, but if you just don't know, you're lost completely, you can send a note into help desk at cco.us, and they will give you a link or direct you. We're here to help you and answer questions, and we enjoy what we do. I hope that comes through. Again, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe on if you're on YouTube or Facebook with us. That helps us, and it also gets you in our funnels. Hit the little bell, and then you'll know whenever we go live or when more content is shared. Can you think of anything else once you send us off, Jennifer, close us out?
Can I think of anything else?
Put her on the spot.
Well,
I put you put her on the spot.
Don't be afraid to send your resume out and take whatever you can get. That will give you that. Many people say, I can't get in the door. I don't know if they've actually tried. So try, and then try again. So keep that smile on your face.
That's right.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye.